Okay, so now we have with us Mr. Ali Asgary from the Advanced Disaster Emergency and Rapid Response Simulation, York University, Canada. And he's going to talk about earthquakes, smart space application, rapid risk assessment of indoor objects using artificial intelligence. Please welcome Mr. Ali.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be with you. I've been here so far this morning and enjoyed very much the presentation. What I'm going to cover in a few minutes that I have is an application that we are developing on assessing indoor objects risk in case of earthquakes. It is being developed at York University in collaboration with Sina Media Lab at Ryerson University, in collaboration with a number of other agencies, as well as support that we have from Government of Canada, particularly Ontario Research Fund. Before I start, I should mention that the whole link to the application and presentation and some other materials that we are using to develop this app are available in the website here, as well as in our own website. So if you need further information about the app, you can consult with the link that we are providing here. There is also a link to this video clip that shows the basis for this application development, some of the reasons behind it that I really don't want to show it here to save time, but it is available also in this link, in this presentation, and in our website. Now, it is very obvious, and I think many of you are already aware of that, no need to discuss it further, that there are many earthquakes happening around the world in an annual basis, many of which create damages, and some of them are really catastrophic. Now, only from 2000 to 2015, you see more than 500 million people have been impacted and killed by earthquakes. And it's not only the earthquake deaths that is important for this application, is also number of people who are injured during the earthquakes. Based on research conducted by many scholars, the ratio between these earthquake deaths to injuries is about 3 to 4, meaning per one person killed, there are at least 3 to 4 people injured. Of course, it varies from disaster, from earthquake to earthquake, but these are the averages that are available so far. Now, within the injured people, we know, and studies also show that there are significant number of people who are basically injured and killed by non-structural components, because they fall, they spread, and they move in the space. And depending on the type of earthquake, the magnitude I mean, and also the building itself, attributes of the building in terms of how strong they are, their location, etc., as well as the objects that are within the building, the number and the extent of the fall and move and spread of all these objects are different. Now, what we are trying to do is to capture the risk of all these elements moving in the space, falling in the space, and spreading in the space, depending on the attributes of the objects themselves. Now, another element to consider in this is human behavior. We already know people during the earthquake, as soon as earthquake start behaving in different ways. Some of them may start escaping from the building. Some of them may take some protection measures. And these are all important in when considering developing an application that is going to help people in these circumstances. Adding to that, we also know that there are common approaches, common protection measures provided by government agencies to people to help them or to advise them what to do during an earthquake. One common one is drop and cover, usually under a table or desk. And this is advised, this is very helpful, but this is going to be effective, first of all, if such an object exists in the room or space. Secondly, if there is no restriction in terms of access to them. Most often this happens actually during the earthquake because of the objects falling and moving. Now, the application we are developing is, of course, a long way to go to complete, and we have several phases for this. The first phase is what we currently have, a demonstration version of it that is available, and we need your help and assistance in many different ways to enhance this and also complete this. I'll explain what and how you can help us in this very shortly. So the app basically has two major components at this point. A component that detects objects in the space. Space could be a kitchen, could be a room, a living room, could be an office or other spaces that are of interest and people use them frequently. And then after it detects the objects, it goes to calculating the risk based on the algorithm that we have currently added to the system. This algorithm needs enhancement, and I'll explain why and what type of enhancement it needs. So basically, after you use it, it tells you what is the possible risk in your space based on the items it detects. Now, the methodology behind this is very complicated, but in a sense simple in terms of items and elements that need to be considered. I mean, it's complicated because of the calculations and different elements aspect that is needed to be considered in each of these elements, but basically risk of each detected object we calculated based on risk of falling, if an object in the room can fall or has the potential to fall, and also risk of moving, if an object has the potential to move during the earthquake based on its weight, based on the structure, types, and shape, and so on. And finally, risk of spreading and breaking, if it is, for example, materials that is of glass made, or material, or is glass also has some materials in it that could spread. These are the spreading aspect that we are considering. And now, these are all calculated based on probabilities, probability of falling times the impact. The impact is measured by the size, by the weight, and shape of the object. Now, I have a couple of live demos, if I can make it here. So that's the size of application here. Actually, I don't have a space here to model it, but excuse me. Let me try if I can work on the same image that I have here. This is a kitchen, and basically what it does, when you start clicking on the application, it has some elements that you can choose, also the language. So it basically starts detecting the objects in the environment. When it finishes detecting, it tells you that analysis is done, and then you can see the results. Let me try it if it works here. It will start detecting that this image is not. So it says analysis completed. Then I press the assessment. It gives the results based on what the objects that it detected here. This is showing high because we have a large number of elements, of course, on top that may fall. These elements that are possible for moving and so on. But what you saw here probably is not the nice environment that you want to test it, because you have to have an actual. This is an image. Now, another example that I want to show you is an office. This is the result if you didn't see it here. This is kind of a scores that it gives you. This is an office example, same process. So I start again looking at this. It identifies books. So you keep going basically to make sure that it captures everything, but when it is done, it tells you that it is done. Completed, and I'm pressing this. Again, it shows the risk that is in this office in terms of the objects. Now, the results can also be seen here. This way. Now, we also have developed a cloud-based version of this for testing. Why? Because we want and we need a lot of data set to train this model from different countries. Office environment, home environments and spaces, and the way people arrange it and items in each environment is different. So the more data set we have from different countries, the better we can train this model. And it would be nice if people in this room can help us with examples from their space, from their room, that can help us develop that data set. Depending on the country, we will be able to build actually a specific version of this app for particular countries. The link also to this app is available on this presentation that is available on the website. You can check it yourself. This is under development as well. Now I'm going to conclude by mentioning a couple of things. Basically, this application is under development. An element that we are adding to this in particular is actions that people can take with regard to the objects that determine these kind of risk to them. Another aspect that is also important is we want to develop this further to include, to become more intelligent by identifying the location of each item in the room so that it can actually simulate the situation to potential users. And if you are interested to collaborate with us with the research, if you can fund this, if you can spread the word, if you can help us with developing the data set, we are very interested in hearing from you and we appreciate your help. And I conclude here. If there are questions, we'd be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Hi, I just wanted to know whether the app is open source, and if not, whether you are considering releasing any of the code. Thank you.
We intend to put it open source, but depends on how type of applications that we are developing. We are aiming to actually create versions of this that are industry specific. For example, for refineries, for manufacturers, and other places where there are other particular issues with the space and arrangement of contents in the space. But the base model is available. Yes. Thank you.
There's one more.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Sounds very interesting. I was wondering, does it take into account the floor of the building also? Because the intensity of the earthquake is quite different, right? And
yes.
Then also with respect to flood, there are some, so we have multi-hazards regions, and you know that there are some resilient solutions like elevating electricity a bit higher, you know, connections and so on. So in terms of flooding, that those objects are safe. So did you maybe think about interlinking this app for different scenarios and also different regions and with respect to floor elevations?
Yeah, very good questions. I answered your first question, which is about the floor. We have not included the floor in the analysis, basically considering those as constant information that is given by the user to the model, same as the earthquake magnitude. We are now basically focusing on earthquake that is high enough or big enough. For flood, this is not meant now for flood, but it is possible to extend it to flood as well. They mentioned my time is over, but I would be happy to answer your questions outside the session.